appears to have broken any rules when it comes to hotel quarantine. Isn't this just the nature of the virus?
Well, good morning, Laura. Look, we're still trying to get to the bottom of how this individual who's been working in the Australian Open hotel quarantine contracted the virus. Clearly someone, probably someone to do with the Australian Open, one of the 600 tennis players or support staff, must have the virus. I can't, deductive reasoning would suggest that someone has the virus and we don't know about it, so that of itself is a concern. But I think the question this morning is a downtown city hotel an appropriate place to be quarantining return travellers?
Well, where do you suggest?
Well, there is a quarantine station at Point Nepean in the suburb of Portsea on the Mornington Peninsula. It's been a quarantine station for 150 years. It was last used in 1999-2000 to house 400 Kosovar refugees, you may recall, during the Howard government. It clearly would need a huge amount of work to get the place up to speed to be able to host return travellers. But there has to be a solution where staff working in these hotels don't then essentially spread the virus throughout the community without their knowledge. So that's the first point. And the second point is, I think a lot of Melburnians this morning are asking themselves, was it worth hosting the Australian Open pre-vaccine? And the answer is, I suspect, if this single case becomes a cluster and that cluster gets out of control, and heaven forbid we get locked down again or there are further restrictions, I think everyone's going to be saying, well, what on earth was Daniel Andrews thinking?
Well, all right, I've got to pick you up there because, Tim Smith, for months you've been saying that the restrictions that Daniel Andrews put some Melburnians under for months were ridiculous, that you need to kind of continue life as normal. Now you're saying one of the premier events shouldn't have been held at all.
No, I'm saying if this thing gets out of control, I think a lot of Melburnians will be asking whether or not it was worth it. But no, I made it very clear. I thought that the second wave was caused by the Andrews Labor government, and I thought their roadmap back to COVID normal was far too lengthy and far too onerous. And for example, hospitality in Melbourne, in the CBD of Melbourne, and across Greater Melbourne, can I say, still only has 50% capacity. And 75% of the private sector workforce was meant to return to the office next week. They're now not going to be returning. So hospitality is crying out to go back to full capacity. Okay. Hospitality is crying out to get more people back into the CBD. The CBD is a ghost town. So I've always said that the Andrews government has been more focused on the things that don't stop the spread of coronavirus and have failed on the things that actually do stop the spread.
Well, there's weak links in the hotel quarantine system. We've seen that time and time again. Do you think the federal government should step in?
No, I don't, because obviously there is a law enforcement role on the ground with hotel quarantine, and I'm not convinced the Commonwealth has those powers, particularly with regards to quarantining of returned Australian travellers. So I think it's appropriate that National Cabinet sets these protocols in place, and the hotel quarantine is managed on the ground by the states. But I think we need to have a sensible conversation as to whether or not downtown hotels are the best place for that to occur. Okay. Howard Springs in Northern Territory seems to be the best place in Australia to quarantine at the moment.
Yep, we'll see where that conversation goes. It hasn't gone very far so far. Tim Smith, as always, thanks for your time.
Thanks, Laura.